What's your reaction to seeing or hearing that Rasul was traded?
Yeah, I mean it's always tough. Rasul's done so many good things over here over the course of 2 years here, and I know not only did he have a great impact on the field, obviously in the locker room, he's one of our leaders, especially in the back end, and want to wish him well, and very thankful for what he brought to our football team over the course of 2 seasons.
Who can pick up the slack in terms of a leadership role there on that side of the secondary, that defense there?
Yeah, that's I think to be determined. We'll find out. But I do think that there's guys in that room and on the defense that are capable of doing some of that.
Matt, assuming this is potentially a big opportunity for Carrington, how did you feel he handled things in Denver? Just for lack of a better phrase, kind of looked like he was getting picked on by Russell a little bit. Just how did you feel he handled all that and performed there?
Yeah, I think the one thing about this game, no matter what position you play, but especially in the defensive backfield, you better have a short memory. You got to play the next play, and I like how he battled and he kept competing, and I know that he's not afraid. He'll go contest you, and there's going to be some times that happens. That's just especially for some of the younger players, and but he's shown a lot to us in terms of throughout the course of the preseason, in those preseason games, in practice, and he's a guy that we got a lot of confidence in.
From a game plan perspective, what does that trade do? I'm guessing you're probably pretty far along on how you wanted to attack the Rams, because I'm asking you what the changes were, but did you have to kind of...
Yeah, there's obviously some tweaks that go along with it.
Matt, how do you what's your messaging to your players? Because whether trading Rasul is going to get you a good pick next year or not, it doesn't help you win on Sunday against the Rams. So how do you kind of manage the guys? I'm sure some of them are disappointed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about there's relationships that are real, that extend beyond the locker room, that extend beyond the field, and it's a tough part of the business, and all you can do is control how you respond and how you react, and it's quite frankly it's no different. Unfortunately, like when guys get injured, you got to adjust, you got to adapt, and we need guys to step up, and that's basically what I told them. We're going to have some other guys step up and fill that void, and but that's the nature of our game.
Ryan said he's in contact with you pretty much often throughout the week. When he brought this up to you, were you surprised at all, or were you kind of like, I understand?
I mean, it really doesn't matter. We've got to put our best plan together and get the next guy up. It's just there's circumstances that take place, and so you just adjust and adapt.
Okay. Whoever lines up a corner, what's the challenge against Kupp and Nakua?
Yeah, and Tutu's playing really well too. So I mean, that's a team that I obviously watch every week. I've got a vested interest in them, yeah, they got a really good receiving core. Obviously, Matthew Stafford is as good as anybody in terms of being able to throw the football. And then they got Higbee, and they're getting their run game going much better. I feel like they've revamped their offensive line, so they've got an explosive offense, and it's a challenge because they got a lot of pieces that they can throw the ball to, and I think they're doing a better job in their ground game as well.
Do you pay a close attention to their injury report this week with Stafford's status? I mean, obviously, you're going to pay attention, but is that something that you are really monitoring closely, or are you just kind of go with whatever the report says?
It is what it is. You just adapt and adjust, just like we do when we have injuries.
What do you think allowed Nakua to come in and be so productive right away?
Definitely the coaches over there. No, I'm just kidding. I just think, he's one of those guys, and I remember talking to my brother about this. So even before the season, and they thought they had something there with him, and I wasn't super familiar with him. And then you turn on the tape, and it's just he does all the little things. I mean, he makes contested catches. They use him. They insert block him. They put him on. He'll block anybody, linebackers, safeties. he's just a hard-nosed football player that just makes plays, and I can see why they have so much love for him, because he continually makes the plays. He does all the little things, does all the dirty work that some receivers might not be willing to do. He's tough, and he competes.
What is the conversation like with your brother this week?
None. Non-existent.
Speaking of adjusting,
I'm just kidding. But there's really not a lot of contact. Quite frankly, when you get wrapped up, in the season, it's not like you have a lot of time to do that. You might be able to catch each other on a Friday or Saturday, but yeah, it's always a little bit different when you play them, and it's a blessing and a curse.
Is it a deal where y'all have been through it, and y'all have been in the league long enough where you're kind of accustomed to this type of situation more than maybe a few years ago?
Yeah, yeah, we've gone against each other quite a few times now. Unfortunately, he's been on the right side of a lot of those lately, so we got to try to flip the script this weekend, and it's going to be a great challenge and there's a lot of guys on that staff that I know very, very well. Obviously, my relationship with Sean and working for him, and Raheem Morris, who I think is as good as anybody in this business, and there's a lot of guys that were there when I was there. So it's like I said, it's a blessing and a curse to be able to go against your friends, and but all that goes out the window, and you don't even think about it really throughout the course of the week. It's just you see them right before game time. You kind of reconnect real quick, and then you're off to your own sideline, and it's just another opponent out there.
I'm curious how your relationship with Sean has evolved over the years. When you first got here, you were just a year removed from working with him in LA. Now you've been here for many years. What's that like when you are on opposite sides of the country, you're close, and time progresses?
He's one of my best friends. He's a guy that I've got a ton of respect for, not only as a football coach, but as a person, as a dad now, as a husband. But he's a great person, great family, and just he's really good at what he does. And I learned a lot from him. So I'm very fortunate for our relationship. We go way back until 2010 when we worked together, and I'll never forget the first time I met him. I could kind of hear when Kyle and Mike Shanahan were interviewing him. I was in another room, but Sean's a pretty animated guy, and I could hear him answering these questions and doing installs. I was like, man, this guy sounds pretty good. And when I met him and got around him, it didn't take me long to figure out that he was going to be, I knew he was going to be a head coach right away.
Hey Matt, going back to Mike real quick, you and him both knew what you were signing up for in the NFL and the ups and downs of it, but how has he kind of settled in now in LA in your old job after, the way things went in New York and stuff like that?
Yeah, he's loving life. He's got a great group to work with, not only, obviously other coaches, but the players as well. He raves about those guys like Matthew Stafford and, the Cooper Kupps and all those guys. So he's really enjoying his time out there, and hopefully we can make it a little uncomfortable for him on Sunday.
Have you guys, who knows what the future holds, but have you guys kind of settled on you'll probably never coach together?
No, I wouldn't say that. That's not something we really talk about, but a lot of craziness happens in our business as we see it all the time.
The last 2 times you guys have faced the Rams, Donald hasn't either played or he's been limited. The game plan against him is probably got to be one of the harder ones.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. I remember last year we thought he was going to play, and then he didn't play, and he definitely causes a lot of pause on a lot of things that you may want to try to do because he's such a game wrecker. I mean, you've got to account for him on every snap. They do a good job of being able to move him around. They give you different personnels, different front structures. So I think they do a great job with him, and then he's a guy that can absolutely take over a game.
What's it been like to have your friend Sean come here for older-ish weather games, not just this year, but the last several? You go to LA next year, but you've had him here so far.
Yeah, I think it's great. I don't think he likes it as much, but I think they were trying to get this game early in the season, but hopefully it keeps getting colder.
Two more, please.
Matt, so you've had pretty decent continuity on your offensive line, other than Dave in the early going. What's been the factor in that is missing in the run game that you just haven't been able to get that going in the way you want, despite having all those guys together?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think, just every game plan is a little bit different, just based on some of the things and some of the challenges that maybe a defense could potentially present to you. I think you look back a week ago, certainly with the amount of pressure, it definitely changed some of the schemes that typically you'd like to run. So I think every week's a little bit different. I mean, there could be different matchups. It could be, the lack of execution. It could be bad play calls. I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it. But I do think that, it seems to me that our guys are coming off the ball a little bit better. I think one of the things that we got to continue to harp on is playing with better pad level. That's something that's been an emphasis, because it's hard if you lose leverage on people, it's hard to move people off the line of scrimmage, and if you're not playing on their side of the line of scrimmage, it's going to be hard to run the ball.
You've talked so much about how it's not just Jordan, it's all 11 guys. Do you feel like going into this week, you maybe, I'm sure you spent a lot of time on it, but you found a way to maybe get those guys a little more on the same page? Have you tried a couple of different ideas with them to try and get them to a better place? I'm not asking for specifics of what the game plan is, but do you feel good about your process in that area?
Yeah, I mean, we tweaked some things out at practice, just to try to make it a little bit more competitive, and maybe, I think it's always harder for guys or I should say it's easier maybe when there's a script, right? When you know what plays are going to be coming, and it presents a little bit more angst, if you will, for guys when you have to just execute whatever play is coming, and you're not quite sure what is coming at you. And that's real life football, though. That happens on Sundays or whenever we play. And so to incorporate more of that stuff, I think, can be beneficial for us.
Matt, any concern with Aaron in the red jersey today?
No concerns. No concerns. I knew it was going to be a little bit. We were in pads on a Wednesday, which typically we've been doing it on Thursday. Made a big emphasis on getting a little bit more contact, and he's a guy that obviously we all know what he's fighting through, and just want to keep him clean, ready to go for Sunday.
Hey Matt, Rasul Douglas went from a pretty quiet guy when he first got here to a vocal leader on your team.
Yeah.
He gave us some pretty frank answers about his disappointment the last 3 or 4 weeks. You could see other players coming to him. Did he step over the line, and what
Absolutely not. Now I want to shut that down right away. It has nothing to do. I think he's been a positive impact in that locker room. So absolutely not.
And what's the guidelines you say to your team veterans like that when it comes to what they say in your meeting rooms or what they say to us?
No, I don't sit there and micromanage what people say, and certainly we have a message that I give to the team every day, every time we talk to them, and about the things that we need to do a better job with, or just all that stuff. But these guys they're going to say what they need to say. But I think most of the guys are all about the right stuff in that locker room. And Rasul is certainly one of those guys.